Thank you, Andres. Thank you, Andres. I'll stick to English, obviously. Yeah, so been running around in Portugal and Madrid, and so first of all, thank you, everybody. I'm so happy that all of you guys are here. I remember, I always like to tell this story. Andres and I got together, I think, 2016. Andres was in Seattle. We were all in Seattle, and Andres comes to me and says, "Dude, we should go down to Mexico and start a LATAM office." So Andres came here, and we have 45 employees, 50 plus employees right now across LATAM. And Andres also, obviously, then he pitched me. He's a sales guy, as you know, and so he pitched me the idea that he should run Portugal and Spain, and so he's running that. So thank you, Andres, and the QuestionPro team. The QuestionPro team has been phenomenal at building this thing up. I could not have expected a better outcome. This has been a great thing. And thank all of you guys. I know a lot of you guys are our customers. I'll talk a little bit about what we are doing at QuestionPro. Talk a little bit about myself. I won't take a lot of time. I won't spend about 20 minutes with you guys. So a huge shout out and thank you to all of you guys. I want to talk about new ideas that have come in the last 1 or 2 years. Obviously, we are a tech company, so we would talk a little bit about technology and what has come to bear, what was not possible even a couple of years ago. I want to talk a little bit about that. But before I begin, originally I'm from India. After high school, I went to Russia for 2 years, so I do speak chut-chut Russian, so not a lot of Russian actually. And then I went to the States, finished my schooling there. I started QuestionPro back in 2005. I ran for about 5 years, took a break, and then since 2015, I've been running QuestionPro since then. So we are fairly global. So we have offices, obviously, here in Mexico and Brazil. Ismail runs Brazil, and then we have Dubai, London, Germany. We're also opening an office in Japan and Australia also. So one of the things that I believe in is we sell software globally in every market that we can obviously sell. Let me jump right into it. I think in the last 1 year, almost all of you guys have heard some variant of AI coming into play. And we believe, and we know, not only we believe, we know that it's a fundamental transition in terms of how technology is kind of being used. If you think about how technology was used earlier on, prior to even 1 year ago, technology was used to store and retrieve data. That's kind of the fundamental thing that tech was enabled to do. But with AI, it can process data much better, right? So that's the one thing that has really materially changed in the last 1 year. I'll give you some examples of what we are doing, and it's not necessarily we're doing all the right things. What I'd say, what I want you guys to understand really is the possibilities that AI enables us to do, not just within research, but across the board. The possibilities are fundamentally real. Another way to look at AI is if you think about it, first there was server computing, then that became cloud computing. So what cloud computing did to everybody is hey, made everything in the cloud so everybody could share everything. So think of AI as one more layer on top of the cloud computing business, really. So that's another way to think about AI. So I'll talk a little bit about productivity, and on the research side, obviously, we believe that quant and qual are going to get merged together, and I know a bunch of qual companies that are providing quant services. Obviously, a bunch of quant companies also providing qual services. I'll talk a little bit about the data collection itself. We also strongly believe that we need to humanize that. It's not just about, as a researcher, you're not just collecting data. People are actually giving feedback. It's actually extremely important when it comes down to CX. Outside of market research, the CX side of the business is where you're actually serving your own customers, and how do you treat your potential customers as well as customers as you're collecting the data is actually pretty important. And we've seen huge differences in terms of response rates by kind of just effectively making it a little bit more human. So first things, what is AI in terms of kind of productivity? If you think about it, in Insights, we had data collection, field work, and then analysis. And the analysis was largely done by human beings. We believe that a lot of the analysis can be done in parallel, really. Not that you can eliminate the human beings, but we can get a lot of the information from systems that can assist you. Think of it as like a co-pilot, really, right? A co-pilot is a better term for AI than anything else because it helps you do the same job 10x faster. Simple. So that's kind of what that's what we've seen, that's what we believe, and not only us, I'd say like we can look at a bunch of other companies are doing the same, or not the same, but very similar things where they're looking at data and coming up. You don't have to do the crosstabs. So you can actually, it does the crosstabs and finds out the significant values and then presents only the significant values to you. So all these things can be automated. Think of it as automation on steroids. That's the way to think about AI, is automation on steroids. What have we done? At QuestionPro, we jumped into this about a year and a half ago, I think. And you know, first use case that we wanted to solve was the design and building of the survey itself. So you can ask a question, and you know the system can design, come up with a survey. So you don't have to come up with the entire survey. You just say, hey, I want to do a survey about this event. What should we ask? How was the food? How was the quality of the speakers? Everything else. So all that information, and it just can create the survey for you. So that's, I wouldn't say it's one of the best use cases, but it is a use case that can be solved using AI right now. Like I said, the design of the data collection. And the second part is really analysis of insights. This is where I think a lot of research work still needs to be done, but we are all, almost including us and everybody else is working on it, is once you collect the data, can the system come up with reasonably good insights? Or at least give you a list of all the insights the system can generate, and then you can pick and choose from them, realistically. And you can see some of them are relevant, the question around relevance is still there. Some relevance may not happen, but some relevance will happen. So that's the way to think about it. So looking at survey results and kind of like, having the researcher analyze the data. You don't have to start from scratch. You don't have to do all the crosstabs. You can start from like 1 or 2 steps ahead of that. So that's kind of the other mechanism that we want to do. And the last part that Gen AI does really is around storytelling and kind of coming up with the stories. Gen AI is actually reasonably good at coming up with stories. That's what we found. And so you can actually have the system generate a kind of like a reasonably good story around a particular construct. So that is that's a pretty important concept. It's kind of different than statistical modeling. Statistical modeling doesn't come up with stories. Statistical modeling, if you think about it in research, comes out yes or no. But with Gen AI, you can actually make it more kind of conversational, if you will. Second thing, the bigger topic I want to talk about is just the merging of qual and quant. So traditionally, we've looked at kind of we ourselves, and I'd probably put myself in the category is that like, qual is something that we don't want to get into, or it's not part of our spectrum. And I've come to a conclusion, or we've all come to a conclusion that, research is research, whether you're doing qualitative or quantitative, and both of them matter. Both of them have obviously their benefits one way or the other. A lot of quant guys would think qual guys are kind of not that smart, and a lot of the qual guys are like, yeah, the quant guys is left brain, right brain kind of conversation. The reality is you need both sides of your brain. That's what we've come to a conclusion. So we acquired a company called DigSite, which is a qualitative platform, and we are going heavily into that. We have a journey mapping tool. We really believe that merging the quantitative side and the qualitative side of the solution gives us a holistic kind of path to what we are trying to do. A good example of this is what we are calling deep dive, which is while you're taking a survey, you can enable it so that at one point, if you say yes to a question or no to a question, the system will ask follow-up questions. And those follow-up questions are automatically generated. You don't have to come up with a follow-up question. It's almost like a one-on-one interview that you're doing with somebody. Oh, okay, you like the water over here. Tell me, why do you like the water? Is it the labeling? Is it the water quality? What is it? So within the survey itself, we can at a particular point almost think of it as you're doing a quant study, and then at a particular point you stop and say, hey, we're going to convert that into a qual project, really, at that point. That can be done. Especially with Gen AI right now. So that is a real life possibility that can be done today. And you don't have to do anything reasonably, it's actually pretty straightforward to do that. That's a good example of kind of merging of kind of the quant and the qual business. And And the third thing I really want to touch on today is the data collection component itself and humanizing that, right? And so there are three things that we've launched in the last 6 months, I would argue, is the visual mode, the livecast, and the video insights. So the visual mode is something that we kind of strongly believe in, which is to kind of like make the surveys themselves, look beautiful, feel beautiful, almost like a website, really. Like so, and we've seen a 30% increase in response rates because they just are different, really. They don't look like a survey. They are obviously fundamentally a survey, but they look like a well-designed website. Think of it that way. So this has been launched and it's been online for like the last, I think, 3 months, I would argue. And you can create stunning surveys, literally, right? And you don't need to have a designer. It's all baked into the platform, so you don't need to have a designer. You don't have to go hire a designer to build a stunning and good-looking surveys. So that's kind of one component of it. That's an example of how a survey can look. And so that to me like represents kind of again making sure that we are actually caring about the respondents while they take the surveys. The second one that I want to talk about a little bit is livecast, where again, all of us are used to everything from Instagram to Snapchat to everything else, and so are the consumers. So we've enabled livecast onto a survey. Anybody can upload a video, take a video shot, and put it in there. So it's integrated into the process. So we're calling this livecast, and as part of that, we can do emotional analysis because we are creating these 30-second, 50-second, 2-minute videos of people responding to a particular question. So any question in any survey can be converted into a video, kind of a video input, if you will. And the third one that I don't know, it's going to come up. Okay. The third one is video insights. Is something there? Okay, that's fine. Don't worry about it. So the third one is video insights, which is where you have videos of your own, and as the video is playing, you can stop at different points of time and collect feedback on a video. This is typically used for, I would argue, for commercials. So if you have a 30-second commercial or a 1-minute commercial or 2-minute commercial, you can get different input at different points of time as the commercial goes through. So those are three kind of examples of how we've kind of like humanized the data collection experience, really. So to me, that's a kind of a good kind of viewpoint on what we're going to do. And the last thing I want to talk about, and I think I've talked about this in the past, it's going to be a little bit controversial, but obviously it's our job to do interesting things, and if you're not doing something controversial, it's not going to be interesting, is what we are calling synthetic data, and we're experimenting with it. We are experimenting with the idea of synthetic panels. So the idea here is we have a lot of data about people in our own databases, right? So in terms of if you have a panel or if you have a community, you have a lot of information about what John likes, what he's doing, what he's not doing, what he likes, and he's taken a bunch. Let's assume that he's taken a bunch of surveys. So we have a lot of data, and the idea here is, can we use that data to predict how John will respond to future surveys? That is the kind of the ultimate definition of a synthetic kind of user. So we're creating this kind of effectively a digital representation of John. And once you create a digital representation of John, all new surveys or new questions can be asked against the digital representation of John. So that is the fundamental idea behind synthetic panels. And we believe it can be done. I mean, obviously we're still experimenting with it. We started this project about 5 months, late last year, October of last year, I think. And the good news here is that we can actually do a kind of like split testing. We can have an internal, think of it as a simulation engine, where we can say like, look, we have a panel of, let's say, 100,000 people. We can create digital representations of 100,000 people and ask a question and see how it responds, how our simulation responds. And we can actually go and ask those 100,000 people also, right? So we can see the difference between what our simulation gave and what the actual results were. So that's so that's why I believe that this problem will be solved. So obviously we've done a couple of simulations right now, and the gap was pretty large, which means our simulations are not obviously accurate. So we're going to keep working on the simulations and the models so that we get as accurate as we can to the actual kind of responses that a new person can give. So this brings about some interesting possibilities. Right now you have a synthetic panel where your data collection can run, like, if you want to run a new survey, for example, it can run in a matter of 10 minutes, really, literally. So you don't have to go out and wait for, and forget the cost. Obviously, there's a huge cost implication, right? So you don't have to go out and pay panel members. You don't have to recruit panel members. You're basically using the data that you have to make, capture new information. So again, this is, I would also say, like, we're not the only guys thinking about it. There are a few other folks that I know in the industry that are kind of investing into these ideas because they are interesting. They're definitely new for sure, and we think that we have to kind of experiment with these things, and once we get some good outcomes out of these, then obviously we'll launch them commercially for everybody. I think that's about it, and and that's it. Yeah, that's it. I think that's all I have for today.